Good evening, everybody. Excuse my late arrival by a whole 3 minutes. A few startup problems this evening as Joanna only realised at 8:30 that it was 8:30 because she was busy before that. Good evening. I hope you are all very, very well. My name is Joanna Godwin-Seidl. I am your host this evening. I think I've reconnected. That's lucky. It seems to have gone off for a moment. I hope we're going to be all right for the rest of the reading. If not, I will just simply log off and log back on again. Welcome. My name is Joanna Godwin-Seidl. I'm your host this evening for the reading of 1001 Nights. The music that you are hearing is the music of Godwin-Seidl. Tonight we will be reading from the 262nd night onwards. I hope you are all very, very well. I know a number of friends and family of mine are certainly getting COVID vaccinations at the moment across the world, which is, I hope, a good thing. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are keeping safe. If you are having a very bad day today, I know also a couple of people who have had bad days today, that I'm terribly sorry. And I am going to post, however, a beautiful song, which I was reminded of when I was talking to a friend last week, which has actually kept me going for 4 days. It's an old musical song from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and was originally sung by Gene Wilder. I cannot play that music for you now because obviously there would be copyright issues and they would mute the reading, but I will post both of those songs later after the reading. And I do invite you, if you're having a bit of a hard day and you do enjoy a nice musical piece and something that is very uplifting, then later I will post on the Vienna Theatre Project page a very beautiful song called Pure Imagination. You can close your eyes, turn up the music loud, somewhere maybe in a room on your own where you're at peace, and just listen to that. And I hope that it'll give you lots of joy and peace and calm and happiness and make you be able to think positive thoughts for the next days to come. So, without further ado, I'm going to invite 2 companies on quickly to the reading, and then I'm going to start reading 1001 Nights. In the meantime, do enjoy, obviously, the music, Kenya, but I'll be with you in just 2 seconds. My internet is incredibly slow today. I do apologise, everybody. Yes, you're posting. That's good. All right. I'm going to leave it at this today. Okay. And let me just turn Cameo down. Okay. So, welcome everybody. And I am going to start with the 362nd night. So I hope you are all sitting very, very comfortably and you have a nice relaxing drink with you and are feeling very relaxed. Just sit back, kick back and listen to me read the rest of this story. Hi, Danny. What an honor. Good evening. What a pleasure. Scheherazade said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the high officials looked upon the horse, they laughed one to the other and said, 'Was it of the like of this horse that the youth spake? We cannot deem him other than mad. However, we shall soon see the truth of his case. Peradventure herein is some mighty matter, and he is a man of high degree. Then they lifted up the horse bodily and, carrying it to the king, set it down before him, and all the lieges flocked round to look at it, marvelling at the beauty of its proportions and the richness of its saddle and bridle. The king also admired it and wondered at it with extreme wonder, and he asked the prince, "O youth, is this thy horse?" He answered, "Yes, O king, this is my horse, and thou shalt soon see the marvel it showeth." Rejoined the king, "Then take and mount it." And the prince retorted, "I will not mount till the troops withdraw afar from it." So the king bade them retire a bow shot from the horse, whereupon quoth its owner, "O king, see thou, I am about to mount my horse and charge upon thy host and scatter them right and left and split their hearts asunder." Said the king, "Do as thou wilt, and spare not their lives, for they will not spare thine." Then the prince mounted, whilst the troops ranged themselves in ranks before him, and one said to another, "When the youth cometh between the ranks, we shall take him on the points of our pikes and the sharps of our sabres." Quoth another, "By Allah, there is a mere misfortune. How shall we slay a youth so comely of face and shapely of form?" And a third continued, "Ye will have hard work to get the better of him." For the youth had not done this but for what he knew of his own prowess and preeminence of valour. Meanwhile, having settled himself in the saddle, the prince turned the pin of the ascent, whilst all eyes were strained to see what he could do. Whereupon the horse began to heave and rock and sway to and fro and make the strangest of movements steed ever made, till its belly was filled with air, and it took flight with its rider and soared high into the sky. When the king saw this, he cried out to his men, saying, "Woe to you! Catch him! Catch him! Here he escape you!" But his wazirs and viceroys said to him, "O king, can a man overtake the flying bird? There is surely none but some mighty magician, or married of the jinn or devil, and Allah save thee from him. So praise thou Almighty for deliverance of thee and all thy host from his hand." Then the king returned to his palace after seeing the feat of the prince, and going in to his daughter, acquainted her with what had befallen them both on the parade ground. He found her grievously afflicted for the prince and bewailing her separation from him, wherefore she fell sick with violent sickness and took to the pillow. Now, when her father saw her on this wise, he pressed her to his breast, and kissing her between the eyes, said to her, "O my daughter, praise Allah Almighty, and thank him for that he hath delivered us from this crafty enchanter, this villain, this low fellow, this thief who thought only of seducing thee." And he repeated to her the story of the prince and how he had disappeared in the firmament. And he abused him and cursed him, not knowing how dearly his daughter loved him. But she paid no heed to his words, and did but redouble in her tears and wails, saying to herself, "By Allah, I will never eat meat nor drain drink till Allah reunite me with him." Her father was greatly concerned for her case and mourned much over her plight. But for all he could do to soothe her, love-longing only increased on her. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 363rd night, Shahrazad said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king, that the king mourned much over his daughter's plight, but for all he could do to soothe her, love-longing only increased on her. Thus far concerning the king and the princess Shams al-Nahar. But as regards Prince Kamar al-Akmar, when he had risen high in air, he turned his horse's head towards his native land, and being alone, mused upon the beauty of the princess and her loveliness. Now, he had inquired of the king's people the name of the city and of its king and his daughter, and men had told him that it was the city of Shanaa. So he journeyed with all speed till he drew near his father's capital, and making an airy circuit about the city, alighted on the roof of the king's palace, where he left his horse. Whilst he descended into the palace, and seeing its threshold strewn with ashes, thought that one of his family was dead. Then he entered, as of wont, and found his father and mother and sisters clad in mourning raiment of black, all pale of face and lean of frames. When his sire descried him and was assured that he was indeed his son, he cried out with a great cry and fell down in a fit. But after a time, coming to himself, threw himself upon him and embraced him, clipping him to his bosom and rejoicing in him with exceeding joy and extreme gladness. His mother and sisters heard this, so they came in, and, seeing the prince, fell upon him, kissing him and weeping and joying with exceeding joyance. Then they questioned him of his case. So he told them all that had passed, from first to last, and his father said to him, "Praised be Allah for thy safety, O cooleth of mine eyes and core of my heart." Then the king bade hold high festival, and the glad tidings flew through the city. So they beat drums and cymbals, and doffing the weed of mourning, donned the gay garb of gladness, and decorated the streets and markets, while the folk vied with each one another who should be the first to give the king joy. And the king proclaimed a general pardon, and opening the prisons released those who were there imprisoned. Moreover, he made banquets for the people with great abundance of eating and drinking for 7 days and nights. All creatures were gladsomest. And he took horse with his son and rode out with him, that the folk might see him and rejoice. After a while, the prince asked about the maker of the horse, saying, "O my father, what hath fortune done with him?" And the king answered, "Allah never bless him, nor the hour wherein I set eyes on him, for he was the cause of thy separation from us, and, O my son, he hath lain in jail since the day of thy disappearance." Then the king bade release him from the prison, and, sending for him, invested in him a dress of satisfaction, and entreated him with the utmost favour and munificence, save that he would not give his daughter to wife. Whereat the sage raged with sore rage, and repented of that which he had done, knowing that the prince had secured the secret of the steed and the manner of its motion. Moreover, the king said to his son, "I reck thou wilt do well not to go near the horse henceforth, and more especially not mount it after this day. For thou knowest not its properties, and belike thou art in error about it." Now, the prince had told his father of his adventure with the king of Sana'a and his daughter, and he said, "Had the king intended to kill thee, he had done so, but thine hour was not yet to come." When the rejoicings were at an end, the people returned to their places, and the king and his son to the palace, where they sat down and fell to eating and drinking and making merry. Now the king had a handsome handmaiden who was skilled in playing the lute. So she took it and began to sweep the strings and sing thereto before the king and his son of separation of lovers, and she chanted the following verses. "Deem not that absence breeds in me aught of forgetfulness. What should remember I did you fro my remembrance wane? Time dies, but never dies the fondest love for you we bear. And in your love I'll die, and in your love I'll rise again." When the prince heard these verses, the fires of longing flamed up in his heart, and pine and passion redoubled upon him. Grief and regret were sore upon him, and his bowels yearned in him for the love of the king's daughter of Sana'a. So he rose forthright, and escaping his father's notice, went forth the palace to the horse, and mounting it, turned the pin of ascent. Whereupon, bird-like, it flew with him high in air, and soared towards the upper regions of the sky. In early morning, his father missed him, and, going up to the pinnacle of the palace in great concern, saw his son rising in the firmament, whereat he was sore afflicted, and repented in all penitence that he had not taken the horse and hidden it. And he said to himself, "By Allah, if but my son return to me, I will destroy the horse, that my heart may be at rest concerning my son." And he fell to weeping and bewailing himself. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 364th night, she said, "It hath reached me O auspicious king, that the king again fell to weeping and bewailing himself for his son. Such was his case. But as regards the prince, he ceased not flying on through air till he came to the city of Sana'a and alighted on the roof as before. Then he crept down stealthily, and finding the eunuch asleep as of wont, raised the curtain and went on little by little, till he came to the door of the princess's alcove chamber and stopped to listen. When lo, he heard her shedding plenteous tears and reciting verses while her women slept around her. Presently, overhearing her weeping and wailing, quoth they, "O our mistress, why wilt thou mourn for one who mourneth not for thee?" Quoth she, "O ye of little wit, is he for whom I mourn of those who forget, who are forgotten?" And she fell again to wailing and weeping till sleep overcame her. Hereat the prince's heart melted for her, and his gallbladder was like to burst. So he entered, and seeing her lying asleep without covering, touched her with his hand. Whereupon her eyes opened and espied him standing beside her. Said he, "Why all this crying and mourning?" And when she knew him, she threw herself upon him and took him around the neck and kissed him and answered, "For thy sake, and because of my separation from thee." Said he, "O my lady, I have been desolate by thee all this long time." But she replied, "'Tis thou who hast desolated me, and hadst thou tarried longer, I had surely died." Rejoined he, "O my lady, what thinkest thou of my case with thy father, and how he dealt with me? Were it not for my love of thee, O temptation and seduction of the three worlds, I had certainly slain him and made him a warning to all beholders. But even as I love thee, so I love him for thy sake." Quoth she, "How couldst thou leave me? Can my life be sweet to me after thee?" Quoth he, "Let what have happened suffice. I am now hungry and thirsty." So she bade her maidens make ready meat and drink, and they sat, eating and drinking and conversing till night was well nigh ended. And when day broke, he rose to take leave of her and depart, ere the eunuch should wake. Shams al-Nahar asked him, "Whither goest thou?" And he answered, "To my father's house, and I plight thee my troth that I will come to thee once in every week." But she wept and said, "I conjure thee by Allah the Almighty, take me with thee whereso thou wendest, and make me not taste anew the bitter gourd of separation from thee." Quoth he, "Wilt thou indeed go with me?" And quoth she, "Yes." "Then," said he, "arise that we depart." So she rose forthright, and going to a chest, arrayed herself in what was richest and dearest to her of trinkets and gold and jewels of price, and she fared forth her handmaids, recking naught. So he carried her up to the roof of the palace, and, mounting the ebony horse, took her up behind him, and made her fast to himself, binding her with strong bonds. After which he turned the shoulder pin of ascent, and the horse rose with him high in air. When her slave women saw this, they shrieked aloud and told her father and mother, who in hot haste ran to the palace roof and, looking up, saw the magical horse flying away with the prince and princess. At this, the king was troubled with ever-increasing trouble and cried out, saying, "O king's son, I conjure thee, by Allah, have ruth on me and my wife, and bereave us not of our daughter." The prince made no reply, but thinking himself that the maiden repented of leaving father and mother, asked her, "O ravishment of the age, say me, wilt thou that I restore thee to thy mother and father?" Whereupon she answered, "By Allah, O my lord, that is not my desire. My only wish is to be with thee wherever thou art, for I am distracted by the love of thee from all else, even from my mother and father." Hearing these words, the prince joyed with great joy, and made the horse fly and fare softly with them, so as not to disquiet her. Nor did they stay their flight till they came in sight of a green meadow, wherein was a spring of running water. Here they alighted and drank, after which the prince took horse again and set her behind him, biding her in his fear for her safety, after which they fared on till they came in sight of his father's capital. At this, the prince was filled with joy and bethought himself to show his beloved the seat of his dominion and his father's power and dignity, and give her to know that it was greater than that of her sire. So he set her down in one of his father's gardens without the city, where his parent was wont to take his pleasure, and carrying her into a domed summer house, prepared there for the king, left the ebony horse at the door, and charged the damsel keep watch over it, saying, "Sit here till my messenger come to thee, for I go now to my father to make ready a palace for thee, and show thee my royal estate." She was delighted when she heard these words, and said to him, "Do as thou wilt." And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 365th night, she said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king, that the maiden was delighted when she heard these words, and said to him, 'Do as thou wilt.' For she thereby understood that she would not enter the city, but with due honour and worship as became her rank." Do we think this is going to go south, everybody? I have a feeling it might. I'm sure something not good is going to happen. Then the prince left her and betook himself to the palace of the king, his father, who rejoiced in his return and met him and welcomed him. And the prince said to him, "Know that I have brought with me the king's daughter, of whom I told thee, and have left her without the city in such a garden, and come to tell thee that thou mayest make ready the procession of the state, and go forth to meet her, and show her thy royal dignity and troops and guards." answered the king, with joy and gladness, and straightway bade decorate the town with the goodliest adornment. Then he took his horse and rode out in all magnificence and majesty, he and his host, high officers and household, with drums and kettle drums, fifes and clarions, and all manner of instruments, whilst the prince drew forth of his treasuries jewellery and apparel, and what else of the things which kings hoard, and made a rare display of wealth and splendour. Moreover, he got ready for the princess a canopied litter of brocades, green, red, and yellow, wherein he set Indian and Greek and Abyssinian slave girls. Then he left the litter and those who were therein, and preceded them to the pavilion where he had set her down, and searched, but found naught. Neither princess nor horse. When he saw this, he beat his face and rent his raiment and began to wander around the garden as if he had lost his wits, after which he came to his senses and said to himself, How could she have come at the secret of this horse, seeing I told her nothing of it? Maybe the Persian sage who made the horse have chanced upon her and stolen her away in revenge for my father's treatment of him. Then he sought the guardians of the gate and of the garden, and asked them if they had seen any pass the precincts, and said, Hath any come in here? Tell me the truth, and the whole truth, or I will at once strike off your heads. They were terrified by his threats, but they answered with one voice, We have seen no man enter save the Persian sage, who came to gather healing herbs. So the prince was satisfied that this was indeed he that had taken away the maiden. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. Oh dear. Oh, I'm not going to read the next bit though, because I think this is like the ending of a program of Dallas or Dynasty or I don't know, Prison Break or something like that. We're going to have to wait until tomorrow to find out what the next installment brings, because that sage, do you remember that the sage, I think he had a really ugly dyed red beard and he was very, very ugly, and he was very old, and the daughter of the king had refused to marry him, and the sage, as a result of that and a result of his anger from the presence of the horse, had sent the prince away on the horse, flying him up in the air without telling the prince how he was able to get down again. Do you remember? But luckily the prince was a clever prince and worked it out on his own. So wherever this young princess is, she's with that ugly, nasty sage bent on revenge. And I hope things aren't going to go badly for her, because some pretty nasty things can happen in these stories that we never realised when we first started reading them. So let us pray that this all has a happy ending without any nasty misdemeanor and violences and chopping off hands and rapes and God knows what else, because that would be very, very sad, because this princess seems like a really, really nice princess. So, my dears, I'm going to see what time it is. And then I am going to love you and leave you and wish you all a very... Oh, gosh, I read quite long tonight. wish you all a very, very good night. Saman, hopefully we'll be back with you tomorrow. And just watch out, because Saman may end up reading at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. We will post it in time, so it might be 8 o'clock Central European time and not 9 o'clock Central European time for Saman tomorrow evening, if she reads. If not, I will read, because she is doing something at the moment which gets her up very, very early in the morning, and so she has to go to bed a little bit earlier these days. So, and not stay up quite so late reading for us all. However, I wish you, let's finish with a little bit of that beautiful music from Kamyab, shall we? Because it's so lovely. This song is called Kiss, and you can find it on Kamyab's YouTube page. Go to Kamyab Saderi. I've posted the link a number of times already, or Saman and I have posted the link already a number of times on Vienna Theatre Project. We are going to be having our special reading, and it looks like it's going to be at the end of April. Unfortunately, we can't do it sooner than that because of time constraints and other commitments that we have. But we wanted to make sure, again, it was something really special for you, so we need a bit of time to sort that out. I wish you all a very, very beautiful evening. Don't forget, if you need a sweet, musical, uplifting song, I am going to post it on Facebook underneath this reading afterwards, just for you, so that you can listen to that as well. Close your eyes, lean back, and just listen to it somewhere quiet and peaceful, and listen to the lyrics as well. That's really important. They're very clear, they're very easy to understand, and the lyrics are really, really beautiful to this song because they're very, very uplifting. So I'm going to post that for you if you're having a bad day. It's not a bad thing to listen to. Otherwise, I wish you many, many blessings. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening, a good night's sleep. If your day is just starting, you're in the middle of your day, I hope you have a very beautiful, beautiful day. So from myself, from Saman, from Kamyab and his team with Bijan, I wish you all a very good night, and again, many blessings. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care. Good night.